중이다 검증하고도 말해.
나 주소 주의도
다 당하던 중이야 다 쉬고야 되는데 아니 다 말한 줄 밀류 지켜와 내네 아니 다 저기 장신이기기 된 약수 해야 돼 아니 다 전주 샘기에 들여 송교를 다 전주 샘께네 아니 저기 그래서 그래 장신이기기 된 루비아데 전주 샘지 매베이나 직체베이네 뷰다고 차고 말했어 근데 전주 샘도 여베이나 랑다 신이가로야 아니 지금 그래서 그래 장신이기기 된 인지kel이나 meaningful 다디 차그래 제제 다디 상제의 전주 선보다 탐제를 다디 용서 차대지 대인도 전부 다디 리지니 냐리야 요래 손 지기 이지쳐 많이 봐 어디 간데스로도 시간 디 양도 아니 지금 셈도야 지금 고르게 양내 제주시에 디 쉽지는 거 전부 주셔
And so, so what we've been talking about previous to this, it's very important for us to come to sort of, some kind of decisive conclusions about it, to really take these things decisively on board. And having attained a precious human rebirth, then we have to sort of think in the context of what we're learning about here. We have to think about what is the best way to live our life meaningfully and to have to be able to fulfill the welfare and aims of both ourselves and others. And it's said that it's often said that bodhicitta, the developing of the awakening mind, is what really helps us to perfectly kind of fulfill the aims and welfare of ourselves and others. And without bodhicitta, maybe it's possible to some extent to fulfill ourselves and the aims of ourselves and others, but it can't be perfectly done to give perfectly kind of the perfectly meaningful in a perfectly meaningful way, to have a perfectly meaningful way to achieve the welfare of self and others, unless bodhicitta is cultivated. And this, of course, we ascribe this awakening mind to the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas, but we shouldn't just think that that is something which exists just because it's been said so. We shouldn't develop that kind of very basic faith in which we feel it exists, but we should constantly go over things in our own mind, searching and investigating and working them through their own mind to see whether they exist or not. This is very important.
First time I heard many wonderful things about bodhicitta, but one of the most wonderful, so much kind of thing that I felt this is what I really needed. That was when my teacher taught about the quality, one of the qualities of the bodhicitta. His way of teaching is very unique, because he will go like, well, if I ask him a question, he will check how this question comes from me. That's one unique thing. It's more like he really cares about this question very much. So one time I was saying that self-cherishing, reduce that is a little difficult for me. When I feel like if I can kind of get the liberation and no more learning stage, and then I just wanted to take a forever rest. And maybe I might not kind of develop bodhicitta and so on. There's a little bit kind of fear within me. And then my teacher asked, well, one of the unique quality of bodhicitta, why it needs to take the self-cherishing is you really need to know what is the subtlest self-cherishing. It's not like I'm the more important, I'm the most important. Not that, because even the arhats who is on the normal learning stage, they don't have that kind of thing. That's more like the grasping. So that self-cherishing, subtlest thing, which I never dreamt of, that my teacher will point, that is the subtlest self-cherishing, it's the motivation. When I hear that, I felt, what? If you have a subtlest, a wish to have, that is the effort. That effort will make this the obstacle to bring cherishing others. So Bodhisattva was doing lots of meditation. Even though they can attain liberation, but they do not do this. They have a fear that this self-cherishing liberation could be very dangerous for them. So that is why they always try to keep their vow, Bodhisattva vow, very clean. They protect it. And then in the sixth session Guru Yoga, we have the section where it comes the Bodhisattvas, the commitments. And there it is saying Bodhisattvas are not allowed to stay in non-Bodhisattva, and especially in the place where there's hearers and solitary realizers. If they stay with him not more than a week, then they need to go. So there is a certain rules to protect themselves from this self-cherishing. So when I hear this, then I felt like I never heard of such thing like this, and it's kind of like, I felt like a dream trail for me. And I feel like now I know what is called the subtlest, one of the subtlest obstacle to get fully enlightenment is the motivation. We need to motivate. We have to set the motivate right, do it right. So my teacher so kindly said, like the money wheel that you are doing. So first you need a kind of push, like the prayers, and then the merit. You do it, then you don't need to do it again, it will just go itself. And like the pot maker, the clay pot maker, they just do the turning and then it goes on itself. That's why the Bodhisattva's prayer are very strong. Like saying, in the Precious Garland, it says, may I become like the wild forest. May I become like the wild flower. So then if somebody plucks, somebody cuts down, I don't have any kind of like, oh, it is cutting me, oh, it's taking my branches. No, that he actually dedicated his body, mind, speech. But normally, whom we offer our body, mind, speech is the Holy One, not to the sentient beings. But Bodhisattvas, they do this for the sentient beings, so that they become so powerful. Not only from the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, from the sentient being. So this, when I first hear about doing this sort of meditation, the retreats, and then plus doing the mantras, and doing the tantric practices, actually is for to kind of eliminate this kind of motivation, effort, to become effortless, or to become a wish fulfilling. And then in this kind of form we have no chance, because it's contaminated. So, and for that we are looking for uncontaminated, or something that can be useful, something worth doing this sort of practices. Then we look for a new form, and then which is not a new form that we borrow it from somebody. It's within us, which we haven't recognized yet. So all these practices is needed. So that's how we call, without understanding the sutra very well, doing any practices of tantra, it is, in a Tibetan we saying, do mena nga hung hung peperes.
Without sutras, the mantra path would be, in Tibetan we say hum pepe, which means, סליחה, בלי טנטרה, סליחה, בלי מסורת הסוטרה, טנטרה בעברית צריכה, חבל על הזמן, בזבוז זמן, חום פפה.
I don't know this Tibetan the way of saying it in Tibetan. It is quite good, but I don't know if you try to translate in Hebrew, it makes sense or not. But it says like 투신보 마르키까지.
יש ממתק טיבטי שעשוי מתערובת של חמאה ושל סוכר וכולי, והטושים
מרדיקת.
ובטיבטית נאמר ש...
there's a Tibetan dish called tu, which is made usually at Losar, and that the tu has a gratitude towards the butter because it's made from butter and other things. So this was the way we could also relate the idea of tantra to sutra, in the sense that the sutra is related in that way to tantra. Without sutra, tantra would be impossible.
Where it comes from is the chickpeas. Having a good chickpeas and with a kind of a good way of technique or secret recipes, that makes the hummus the best. So what is the secret recipe for the tantra is the sutra. 펜지 심진 거와 것이 니기고 남는 넘버 쳬비스 다들이 마치 니버트로.
בכל מקרה אנחנו נעבור מהבית הראשון לבית השני. הבית הראשון אמר בסופו הלמד.
So the second two lines read, in order to benefit samsaric beings, I will teach a few methods for growing fond of sentient beings. And that's the first end of the first verse. So I think I've covered most of that now.
Any Jidani Riki Pum, Riki Pomoseata, Yanchiki Rigsea, the Sabano Koya Mamboji, and Adone, Riki Tondato, Rode, and the good Lamiko do the Sundua. Any Yunden Tamchi Tulshings, Tulshing Chungwi, Gyan Part Tul, Yunden Tamchi Chungwi, and she is Sabin Tilla Rigs. Yanti Nuva Cherdown do Numo Yesa Tagar Rane Majeb Susatan Yundi Majeba Tagarane Yundi Yesa Susa said Kona Ko Rig Sabin said Nuba said Betty Ko Mixijua.
And so there's so I actually mentioned, I just want to go quickly back to the first, this talk of the Rik in the first verse, which is this kind of, it's often been said as in Rikipu, Rikipomo in the Heart Sutra, those are the sons and daughters of the lineage, has that meaning, kind of lineage. It also has this lineage of the kind of meaning of being a kind of seed or potentiality. And I think, you know, that idea of potential is certainly a very useful one, but it also has that sense of the quality, the developing of the quality, the seed or the potentiality, which is able to develop the completely the qualities and to get rid of all of the kind of negative or false aspects of things. So that kind of seed-like and potentiality for that. But even if we even think of it, it could be the kind of cessation into the place, the kind of sense of the place where the mental afflictions arise, sort of ceasing them into the potential or seed which ceases them into prevents the mental afflictions arising, and the kind of place or environment in which the qualities, the perfect qualities have not arisen, but are prevented from being arising, and stopping that the potential or seed which stops those qualities from arising, allowing them to arise, could also be a way of thinking of this.
Semgi Rangshin Selvare say Della and some of Koreagi Dilia Tung Tandang Delia Kodanchi.
So here I think we could really bring in that understanding of not of the seed or the potential or the seed of being that which allows us to achieve liberation, to be completely freed from suffering. So having this lineage is one way, but the seed which allows us to be completely free from suffering, to attain complete Buddhahood, and the seed in one sense being also, what is the seed? In one sense also to be understood as the clear light nature of the mind, which I forgot to mention from the last piece, where Rinpoche taught that from the Uttara Tantra, it talks about this way in the kind of clear light nature of mind being the seed, and also that allowing for all of the mental afflictions to be ceased, and the place or environment which allows for all the qualities which have not arisen to then be able to arise. So we can think of it like that.
제상 상계 현내 추기오 말에 세야돼 조디 상계지 폐지 아니 배 동네 탐지 매고 수에 삼로디 코는 뉴리스 제장가 상지 랑의 유배기 상지 누버디 두버 다랑이야 상지 통토배치 균 미두 연대 대다 탐지 랑치수 유대니 손도지 통해야 되라 아니 저거 준비 추게 나로라 아니 상지 셴의 미추 세디 리시 정도가 세상에 딘나 신체체 아란조려야 요모께서 다가라네 아니 요모 마음에 없어도 연대 망보시부지 용원선 족세는 신체 가르 조업을서도 지금 아란 저기 동네 차라 망보지 시트도 뉴드도 상모도 드네만 조로 그래서 이나야 첸스도 좀 드네마야 롱구도 죽으로서 드네 샤르도 그랬어요 시타랑 시타랑지 간에 사변 다가랑디 간에 어디 주도 잠배 양 늘양 투모모이 구주주스레 어디를 삼복호도냐고 메로.
So I think also another way to really think about this would be perhaps in terms of the
단 유거랑 고베이나 양코 저 집어 차로로 남셔준도 제장가 상제 신의 미수세디 상제디 아니 제장가 마란졸이야 심 런신코를 주마다 퇴버 랑치수 여바 다가랑 통대지 되는 선배 상제 신의 미수지 누가 다가랑 독세니.
So so thinking about other ways in which to think about this idea of the potential or the seed would be to perhaps take it in the context of Dzogchen, the great completion, and in those teachings, in the sort of tradition of the Dzogchen teachings, the great completion teachings, it talks about not searching for another Buddha, not searching. And what this means is not to search outside of ourselves, to not be thinking of the Buddha as that person who came into the world and said, this is the truth of suffering, this is the cause of suffering. Not to, but actually seeing that we have within inside of us, certainly in terms of the Dzogchen tradition, they'll say that all of those qualities are complete within inside of ourselves. That all of the the faults are not naturally there. Seeing the clear, the uncontaminated nature of ourselves, and understanding that has all the qualities and is completely devoid of all of the stains and faults, and seeing that as the nature of our own mind is to not seek for another Buddha outside. And so, as I said here, in that place where ceasing, we can think of that in the sense of how the completion is the sense in which all of the mental afflictions are ceased into that kind of purity of pure nature, and all of the qualities arise from that, as a Sambhogakaya or a Namanakaya would do, coming out from the seed. So that's the way we can think about potential.
대두 충분진지 고조레스. 드디어 야고 쇼도가 제장가 디 남나 지금에도 제장 창사 대비가리야. 아니 코미트먼트 루드 조럽데 인처럼 간년 최비가래 최로 도부녀에 가라녀로 아니 흉마처럼 가르쳐보는 거로 지금 세디 라고 그러봐. 근데 저러 제상가 디디나라 다가랑 레도와 삼당당도 년세 차야디 제가 족세다 년세디 제상가 다 심진 대다 탐지 세두점에 년을 겨왕같이 삼로도 마담체 년 삼로 담배이나 어란주도 전부링 파도 삼로 담배이나 냐만다 저기 구유럽대 지금 타는 거 쉽지 되고 요래 다 들은 것은 테크놀로지 이내에 아니 배 다치 파수 durgye namdu inere ta so shu be shu chaunde tang yama dam mandaba zambuling chung de chamber kemare te ta tab de shu ji cha yong de zembe rangshin gi jungwa gi tone ji pena ji saje dewale ya ni ju chungwa de gi ya gego chambale ya penyon ro ya saje ji la match bu shon ro be na e gegap ji le ne yon yong ya de khali ga da global warming se ya da climate karina se ya da tamje an ji ji den yin ba de ta se wu shu ji e na ti ti du go zu bi ka ba ya ka nya thang bu ro ji cha yong bi ka la ti su ji ga sam ro le 다 단다시네 야 지금 가년디 셀 투라 마투로 선로지 가년 첨부지 준비 가블라 오 타팅 미스에 가년에 알아서 미르지 타티야 아니 개요르스 딜라고도 와 데레지가 삼로 담배 있나요 제상가 양고 슈부지기 경험마다 치마를 만들어 보이나요 고지 결혼주 기부치다 약고진 대비나 만조리 시디 연구를 해야 돼 그런 것은 일단 저기 다른 돈마도 저는 시도 제가 말하는 정말로 다지기 년도부터 대고야지 개청부터 해서야 납자직 되나를 직통요 봐 이년 직송다
and so the first word I want to highlight in this verse here is the word which appears in the second line of the translation, and the Tibetan also, being equal with regard to happiness and suffering. We are family, or it can be translated as relatives, or those close and connected with us. So taking a sort of worldly example, when we are married to somebody else, there are certain commitments and vows that are made to each other, and one of the vows is so thinking about what this means in terms of being family or being relatives or being close ones, is in the marriage ceremony the commitment would be as is said in sickness and in health. So whenever troubles befall you, I'll be there to help. Whenever good things occur, I'll still be there to help. Whatever occurs, I'll be there to help. So we should regard this kind of commitment or a kind of way of thinking about it in the same way. And so not speaking in terms of past and future lives, but not using this as an example in terms of past and future lives, but just in this world where in the past, in terms of the environmental conditions, that people lived in small communities very far away from each other, and there wasn't so much kind of there wasn't so much manifest interaction between them that then caused either benefit or harm. It was on a much more spread out kind of scale. But naturally, as the situation and environment, the situation, the world situation has evolved now. I don't want to say that the world has become smaller, but through technological advances and which has brought to the development, technology and the development that and changes which occur on the basis of that. I won't say the world has become smaller, but we've become. The situation is that now that such situations in a particular area are much more likely to harm or benefit people or the environment in another area. So we have all kind of, huge sort of droughts or fires or the kind of overarching problem of global warming. And nobody set out to deliberately to sort of to create these situations, but there seems to be more than in the past, much more of a kind of interdependence of harm and benefit occurring between sort of communities and environments or areas. So as I say, not taking this in that sort of much more wider context of past and future lives and our relationships with people in past and future lives, but just in that sense that, as it says in the text, we are family. And therefore, if that sense in which if other people have happiness and conducive conditions, then we are also to some extent feel at peace, and having that feeling of being at peace when we hear of others having happiness in their lives. And therefore, this sense in which being a family, being close, kind of relation, this kind of relation is extremely important. So that's how I want to sort of tease out that meaning of that word in this particular verse.
אם לאחרים יהיה טוב, אם אחרים יחיו ברווחה אישית, זה גם ישפיע על הרווחה האישית שלנו. אפשר לומר שבמובן מסוים אנחנו מקבלים את האמרה הזאת של אם לאחרים יהיה טוב, גם לי יהיה טוב. אם לאחרים טוב, גם לי יהיה טוב, כי אנחנו קשורים אחד בשני. ולכן, כמו שהבית הזה אומר, בנוגע לאושר וסבל, אני ובעלי התודעה שווים, בהיותנו שווים באושר וסבל, אנחנו כמשפחה.
제가 다 디 조디 아주 운주 전주 주고는 샘 개백갑이야 아니 다신 냠고래세 라져주요 제가 다 다신 냠시도 준비 다신 냠당디 아니 개체셔도데 제가 디나로라 엘레티직 동반이기요 과학 토는 많이 미체 다신 냠당디 다 아니 동해 민도는 신 신양 동해 만들어래 신양 동해 만들어는 신 나양 동해 만들어래 아니 니가로 기부주 중나 가야지다 누구지 중나 막아니 기부지 연지래도 와세 삼로지 디디지 옆에 토네 아니 랑신기 바로 삼시체세 저러 아주 삼시체세 디디지 간라야 아니 총버지 디운도 잠배 아니고 랑신기 셈 코냠단지 지도가 되라 다 이내디 그 까불까불 레그레데 이코야 따고 되게 말이 제가 그 따고를 대야겠죠 디짜침부 인데 따고를 대야겠죠 아니 신의 디치도 동반이 구미야 디치도 아니 삼로 당도요 사로 당치 아니 겨왕아마도 치모 삼로 당치 겨왕아메 갑술라 아니 도스 제제 알 도스 숑버레 알린 까녀 용야디 겨왕이메 니 디리지 마시버리 주메버리 켄 용고 마르스녜 저와 메디니 지금 알 도스네 게 시가 마르세 삼로 탐지 가르쳐드렸으나 다다 신이 년다부터 통역당 대학에서도 다 전주 심 송고야 저번에 디강 돌아와
And so when we're talking about generating, so then sort of making this a bit more kind of extensive, this sense of family or closeness, then in developing, particularly in the technique for developing the awakening mind, the equalizing exchange of self and others, what is very what the main, there's sort of different levels in which we develop this, and what is important to develop is, even if we develop it without bringing in the conversation about the lack of inherent nature and emptiness, we can still sort of that sense of exchanging self and others as the sense in which, particularly in the equalization of self and others, that sense in which just as we don't wish to have suffering, so the other person is exactly the same. All others are exactly the same in not wishing to have that suffering. And just as all others don't wish to have that suffering, we are exactly the same in that condition. So therefore, there's that sense of similarity between us, the kind of recognition of our kind of commonality. And so in order, wishing for ourselves to have happiness and not to have complicated and distressing situations, we understand that the others wish to have happiness and don't wish to have those distressing and situations of suffering. And that's one way to do it. And that is definitely possible to cultivate this. But I do feel that it's not sustainable in the long term. And the only way in which we can make this sustainable and be able to cultivate it in a kind of sustainable, continuous way is to bring in the understanding and the meditation, contemplation and meditation of emptiness, of the empty nature. And also, there's another way to sort of think about it. So that really helps to kind of sustain our the arising in of us of that feeling of the similarity, and therefore to help us to practice the exchange of equalization and exchange of self and others. And also, there are other methods. If we take it a little bit more profoundly, like thinking of if we take the context of past and future lives, and then we sort of say, like, well, things didn't come about causelessly. They do arise from causes and conditions, and I perform this certain category of kind of behavior, and therefore I'm receiving the results of that particular behavior. So things are not unconnected. They don't arise causelessly. They arise from causes and conditions. And sort of seeing this sort of more clearly will also help us to kind of to give rise to these states of mind, and also to help us to remain more firmly in them. But I think the emptiness is the thing which really helps us to sustain this meditation in the kind of long term.
על ידי גורמים ותנאים. אז בסופו של דבר, בבית מספר 2, אנחנו מכירים בחוויה האישית שלנו באושר ובסבל, ובכך שאנחנו לא היחידים במשוואה הזאת, אלא אנחנו בדיוק אותו דבר, שווים לאחרים בחוויה הזאת. לא.
אוקיי.
אנחנו צריכים לחכות לצליל או?
오케이. 오케이. 다체상가 단다 전주 쌤 아니 검당 디러버지 단년도들한 게 졸어티 용구요 말봐. 고구요 말봐. 가르치는스나 연도당 rangi zugi 아니 겨왕아마도 치마다 두주 삼로당에도 쪼르버데 아니 지게 말한주다 류가 이 숨기 아니 셴라 네버체베이나 랑동에 용구래 랑동에 용와인도 잠베 아니 랑동에 타르버 체고도 잠베 레드 세고 요래 녀몬 님부땡고 요래 시제 고 추림 송야데도 우즈마디요 다 전주 셈발라 신도 답에 자신부지 가려서도 셈베 신을 내버치나 지금인도스 거르진스나 신을 내버치 제버디 말하는 내용도 쓰기 소리지 따뜻하게 자신부셔지 말을 내버치 제당 그대로 쓸려도 셈베 콘주지도 깔리게요 그랬어 다디 삼고요 얘기 지금 우르레 당에 대한 아니 sentient 지기 대화든 대외주든 대바다 동행도 동행도 차와 도르드나 참바체면 인지체면 아니 지게 가와체면 땅용체면서 고매야 용원수 좋대 안디 심지 탐지도 다르바스 내 인도점에 심지리야 내가 저 민지비 좀진 치셔디 심지는 내가 제비는 심지랑은 내가 지도 심지를 배 그랑 뭐지부 수도 좀 세워 많이 봐 아마지부 쳐주세요 또 좀센디 다침 쉬우시 세상가 대인도 점배다 대 지가서 그래 어떤지 선바 상고대 쭉 지금 미주나 카테슬리그나 섬에 랑조 단내단 들을 차기요래 이나 양다 다른 것은 두절 삼월 당연히 다티 인지 미치 고고여서 신 점불린 게 내당 지금 다운도 점배 미수수 대외 통달을 로데기 요르데 민신 지기 쳐도 지 지기 있으니데 할람 공부르지 제가 다티 문에 전에 신경 통달을 삼을 때와도 랍더이네리 맹강이네리 초바이네리 얘가 우치지네리 다 딜dim 랑진진의 슈체자 현진진 그 상로에도 아주 냥고야 돼. 즉 삼로 점불이나 딜리기도 봐. 대 인도 전배다 아람츠 즉 차산 전주 선배 차서야 되다. 즉 상계 차서야 커버를 때 이내 디기 삼로 당당기 초직디 예지미진 아주 즉 레고야지. 그래서 전주 선배기 저번에 아니 주 아주 무슨 지금 괴베서 지금 스테인 야트 대들 하요 손로지 아주 다지 고도가 다지 지금 연한테 배 휴지 용사를 섬산지 도가
And so in terms of the meditation on what's the kind of purpose and how to meditate on and cultivate this awakening mind, then it's sort of we commonly say that the hearers and the solitary realizers from the Theravada tradition, that they don't really relate to this practice of the awakening mind. The main way that they relate in terms of other sentient beings is to think about the context of to think within the context of past and future lives. This is the main way in which they sort of engage with this question of others, and they feel that sense of not wishing to harm others through the doors, through the activities of their body, speech, and mind, but therefore that they so there's that sense of restraint from harm of others through body, speech, and mind, because they feel that then if they do so then they focus on the sense in which that they focus on the sense of getting rid of the suffering which will accrue from doing those things. They feel that they need to get away from all of the sufferings of the samsaric life, and they need to cut cut that off completely by relying on the antidotes which lead to personal liberation. And in order to do that, they need to rely on the kind of ethical conduct and discipline which helps them to do that. But that sense is to sort of get away from everything and to be as liberated as quickly as possible. So there is a sense of restraint from harm from others, but there's not that sense in which the Buddha has, what's perhaps one of the greatest aspects of this, the path of the Bodhisattva, is that what this special quality where they think that harming others is not only a bad thing in itself, but the reason it's a bad thing is because it also harms us. So in a sense, harming others is actually self-harm as well. But this is not done in the context of in a kind of selfish context. So there's this restraint from causing harm to others, which in some of the Bodhisattva practices can be done by giving away our happiness and all joy and happiness to others on the out breath, and then on breathing in, taking away and cleansing all of the suffering and negativity of others. But it's not done with the restraint not to sort of upset the other person's life or something like that, but it's done with this sense that the greatest reason that they use is that harming of others will directly harm ourselves. And so this context of the context that we need in this which is not, and so yes. So then, sorry, this leads on to the. So in the context of the Tonglen, taking and giving on basis of the breath, or the four immeasurables of not of them not having sentient beings not having suffering, having being free of suffering, having happiness, having joy, and so on. The four immeasurable qualities are done in the context of also not in terms of harming others, because it will harm ourselves. And this in this world we find this sense of not wishing wishing the welfare for others, and not wishing others to have happiness is very rare in this world this day, in the context of education and schools, in the context of institutions, and in kind of medical and hospital in medical environment, in institutions, even within our leaders, there's very little sense of this. There's so much emphasis on other people just getting on and sort of almost like competitively fulfilling their own wishes, without very much sense of the sort of need to help and the need to help others. And this kind of self-centered and self-grasping attitude is something that we really need to reduce in this world. So I'm not saying that every single person, it's not very realistic to think that every single person could suddenly be, that all people become bodhisattvas and Buddhas immediately. But I do think that we could take some sense, or a little kind of slice of these practices associated with this bodhisattva path, which could be taken into what I might like to call the kind of white stains, not the stains we usually think of stains as in a negative context, but the kind of white stains or influence of that coming from the conduct and practices of the bodhisattva path. And those are really needed in the current world, where this kind of selfishness is rife, and the wish to be of benefit to others is so limited.
So at this point, we need to appreciate the kindness of His Holiness Dalai Lama, because he came up with the idea of, now, in order to bring a world peace, we need to do something. That means we need to give a proper education, not just a modern education. But then he says we need to bring some kind of secular ethics, more that the value of the qualities we naturally we have it, but then somehow we neglect these qualities. So in the schools, when you give the modern education, just don't focus and teach them how to make money, how to be a successful businessman, how to become like successful, what kind of profession you are going to do it. But most important, what are the most important is to be, how to be kind, how to be compassionate. Compassionate doesn't mean that you will be take the defeat. It's not this. Compassion means you will try to absorb or try to understand the situation and come up with some kind of a solution to this, and not give up on any kind of a situation. You will always be strong for what is coming next. So all this education needs to be added in the modern schools we have. And then in order to do that, this is fantastic, because nobody can do this, because His Holiness made a kind of for a long time he made kind of a community to discuss about what are the things, what that particularly makes this Buddha's teaching only is reserved for the Buddhist, and what else there is something that we can all share it to others. Even they study this, practice this, they don't need to become a Buddhist. So then he comes up with Buddhist science, Buddhist philosophy, and what are the
Buddhist practice.
The practice. Yeah, so all that he says, all this you can study, like how to reduce the grasping, or cherishing others, all that you can learn. And then taking precepts, or taking vow, all then doing some kind of nyungnes or whatever the retreat, that is someone who take a refuge, that kind of person can do. So other than that, people really study something called the techniques that is needed. So it's so kind of His Holiness. So now it's available already on the net. I think, I don't know in Hebrew, but it's already kind of in English. This His Holiness, these particular books are out. So yes, so where does this idea comes from? Where does this strength comes in His Holiness Dalai Lama is now through this kind of teaching, I think. So even Buddha, we believe Buddha has fully enlightened, no more suffering. Even though we believe there is a kind of a manifestation, kind of a reincarnation, and then all this has to come back. Not because he has come with a motivation, it's more like a kind of natural thing. Wherever there is sentient being, may I be there. Even in the hell I need it, I go. And even in the war it's happening, may I go. We could be like pretty sure in wherever the difficult situation, there is some kind of people having so much strength, volunteering, all this thing. We cannot just say they are like Buddha or Bodhisattva like this, but with some kind of strength, it really kind of this lightning happening in him or her. It's the what we talk in the Buddhism. What is that?
Enlightened activities.
Enlightened activities. That's there. So this really can be a miracle. Sometimes that person is like the kind of hopeless sometimes. Cannot say that, but sometimes it happens for us to see like that. But then sometimes one kind of a click, one kind of a way of thinking, he's fully changed. This could happen. So it's like we sometimes say miracle. But actually the miracle is needed to get on to the right cause and condition. Then it happens. So it will be very wrong to wait for this. Somebody will come and knock on my door and wake me up. Not that kind of thing. But you have to try your best. And then there is someone always there for you to make you strong. So then all this gets together. Sometimes it's recognized the name as the enlightened activities.
Enlightened activities.
Right. Okay. I was listening to this this teaching which is given by one Geshe-la, very great practitioner, Geshe Tupten-Pesang. So when he was explaining about this, he just laughed and giggled, saying, for us, it's too early to say, saying that So it is not right to completely abandon these beings and enter into the nirvana. It's a little bit early for us to say it because we don't have a good understanding of nirvana yet. But it's more like it's sometimes this could be one kind of a source. Sometimes we feel like I wanted to become fully enlightened. And then somebody will ask this question, why? And you say, unless I cannot become fully enlightened Buddha, I cannot help sentient beings. And then the person can ask you another question, saying, you can start from now. If you really care about them, what are you doing? So that is a really good question to us. So one of my master said, the strength of to become a fully enlightened should be something like day-to-day life. You have to earn this inspiration. Otherwise, you only think like you will become lazy. Like, oh, I become a Buddha, then I will benefit sentient beings. But then Bodhisattva's act is a little different than that. It's more like sometimes they have a kind of inspiration saying, I don't care if I become a Buddha or not. I'm going to do this, serve sentient beings. Wherever they're suffering, may I go there and may I have the strength. So there is how to generate bodhicitta. There are 22 different types of bodhicitta. So we say there's only only the one is logical. Logical is only one, like a king-like bodhicitta. The rest there is called like a shepherd-like bodhicitta. Sometimes for me it is much more stronger. So it's more like, may all the sentient beings go ahead and do something. I will push them to do it. Sometimes this is needed. So if it is not needed, why the great teachers will share this with us? So we are not getting these kind of techniques, but then we all just go like, I become a Buddha in order to benefit all the sentient beings, and then you forget all other how to generate bodhicitta. So it's and also nyungne. For a good, maybe some of might have you done kind of a nyungne, but in nyungne practice, it's more to understand the suffering very clearly. That's why we do fasting, not because we want to reduce the calories. But that's like that also can work, but that's not the purpose of doing nyungne. So when there's hunger, when there is some kind of a thirst, then you feel like many beings have this kind of suffering. As the Chenrezig himself realized this, and then he came in this kind of form to help sentient beings. I need this kind of form. That's then the right way. Similarly, here we can practice this. And then, in order to reduce the attachment to become a Buddha, and you can use this, I will not abandon the sentient beings and to get into the nirvana. I can do it, but I'm not going to do this. It's more like you have the option, and then you think like, well, this is, I see no benefit, such a great benefit for me doing this, so I will choose this way to get the full enlightenment for the sentient beings. And then vote to, when you always feel like tired, when you had a difficult partner or difficult situation, and then it's kind of the mind becomes so tired and then exhausted, then you feel like enough is enough. I can't do this anymore. And then, like those people who run centers, and then all, may I can say, even in the private office of His Holiness Dalai Lama, and just name any one good great being, in the office there is always this kind of mess. Of course, 100%. I can just sign it for you. There it is. But then each and every day, these people who's working working for sentient beings or for His Holiness, the same kind of thing, they always need to boost up their energy to become each and every day stronger and stronger. So, and then it's more like, I can do this, but I'm not going, because I can hear maybe praise one of my attendants. He got US citizenship, and he has followers and students, and his relatives are there, but then he holds to the passport only, US passport, but he always spends the time with me, because he feels like if I serve him, he has a much stronger voice, he will become more benefit, so me serving him will be much more beneficial. So this makes him stronger. So like this, but I don't know if he's doing the right choice or not. From his own side, it's like, this is 100% true. And then many people who served their master is for that reason. Through this, I can get a full enlightenment. Through this, it's more beneficial. And then I think at the same time, the power is there because it will reduce your self-cherishing mind. So people who does not, they believe, but they don't understand the qualities of the Buddha. That's what I'm saying. If I know this talk is going to be a little bit boring, but one true thing that when our hearts, when they do kind of a meditation, deep meditation, and then due to the kindness, the compassionate Buddha will kind of not tease them, but it will just try to awake these great beings. Then the Buddhas will show this kind of power, that he can benefit so many beings and give them like solid answers. Then ultimately, what the great beings, the arhats, when they awake from meditation, they see these activities of the Buddha, and then they just get into this kind of like a good trap. And then they start asking, how do you do that? And then Buddha's answer is like, I do this for myself. It's not saying like, do this for them. So this is how one unique way to, a skillful way. So when we talk about bodhicitta, we talk about two aspects of the bodhicitta. One is the for
one's own sake, for
one's own sake, and then for the other's sake.
Yeah, for one's own welfare, for others' welfare.
One's welfare, and for others' welfare. So these two are not separatable for the Buddhas. Shendun dinam dodijeng nalo, shendun yang rangtun re sechi, shengi tun yang rangi tun no sechi ori.
The Sutta Alamkara.
And Sutta Alamkara, it says that the very others' welfare is our own welfare. Our own welfare is others' welfare. That's how it says it. Our own others' welfare is our own welfare. Is the others' aims are our own.
제장가 현실이 파종어듯이 랑수도 추조어듯이 애니 피게 된 채변에 크게 되어마도 시대면도 수도 전에 제장 좀 된데기 아니 주바 남이 나절로서 뭐 떼난체 주바 대다 탐지 컨테스 리그도 슬랍도 전에 신 제벌 전부 텔레 때니 아니 디주 상마 꾸디주 상마 샤레 치탄다 아란주 데 꾸드라마다 요르바타 꾸다나로 데 드라마다 제도바 제르시든 잠베양도 막보죠 대다 탐지 아니 늦었어 소소려야 아니 디 람템 배쳐도 야 샤롱야지 마도 지금 깔레게 먹었지 제장가 란텐스나 드리고 그랬어 어디 인도 잠베 아니 제장가 란주기 제장가 냐니엘 데발라 죽으면서 그전에는 냐니엘 데발 주발라 경험하게 뒀어 말이 경험하게 뒀어 심지어는 다른 경험을 하기도 세 점만 봐. 알아양 경험을 하기도. 그전에는 수구도 줍도 못도. 수구 탈치 뭐 용도 못도. 어디서 참말로다. 단다 또 계제도 용으로 잡으려 돼. 야디 세미나를 샤베이나 슈마 칸된 게 좋지도 펜토서 봐.
And so in the Sutra Alamkara, it talks about how others' welfare it really is our own welfare, and we can't have this way of thinking where others are kind of over there, out there. That's the other person over there. I'm over here. And therefore, sort of having that sense of, well, how is it that if someone else's aims and welfare are achieved, that somehow I'll get my aims and welfare achieved? We can't have that way of thinking, because that won't bring in this subtle understanding of how others' welfare is in achieving the aims of others is in fact achieving the aims of ourselves. And so from the enlightened state, the Buddhas send out a vast array of emanations that they appear, and how and why they appear they appear in a huge variety of different forms. So for instance, here we have a sort of more manifest physical forms in the form of statues and images of deities such as Manjushri, the wisdom, and the deity of wisdom, and Avalokiteshvara, the deity of compassion. And they appear in these different forms in order to be able to show the path. They appear in various forms in order to effortlessly show the path to students with different kinds of students, and so this what we understand is that not so not when we talk about not going, and that's the not going into nirvana is this sense in which we see that one of the faults of this is sort of like from the verse that we've been studying, not going into nirvana, not just a fault for the other sentient beings, but it has a fault for myself, because all of these emanations that appear in order to show the path, effortlessly show the path for the welfare of others, come out of the Rupakaya, the kind of form body of the Buddha, and passing away into nirvana, but not having accomplished the fully enlightened state with the Rupakaya, means that we're not able to. That's a kind of it becomes my fault as well. It's not being able to help all of the sentient beings in these different ways with these different manifestations is actually a way in which I accrue a fault to myself as well as to others, and therefore I don't fulfill my highest kind of potential or aims. We can say it like that. So that's why we say you can't think of it as someone else out there, over there, and me over here, and trying to fulfill their aims in that way. That's not a way that we do it.
Sentient 탐지 대화 시도 전에 그 단다 모집 순연티 디나 직셀 답기 왜 삼로당 그 위에서 라비바 안데 카워 데다 거와 영향 그러면 도사 좀 코응알 장보시에브레 좀 코나 시도 디 마도 심신 탐지 아니 배 상제 고방을 거에 로봇치기 코다 카워를 삼제 솔로 뜬거 회사 그 모집 휴중 인서봐 제장가 다 아란주 여기 몇몇 단다 디스커션 그룹 열어서도 디가로야 디스커스 체 찍디 다 단지딩에 망고 셰드는 찍니 열시 그래 개주셔 찍도 가르도스는 샘제 찍 아니 파트면 되나 안 상게 못해야지 가르셔스 디엔 디스커션 안 로에드 백해심을 안데 양고 discussion na lu yang Quran zu leader yu ne re yang Quran zu discuss na chi chen na ai nyam do yong ya ge xie che zu zu pe ne ga shong zhe che zang ga odi chiran zo ya di na lo le hindi chik de so da ge ta da rab do pang ne kyang nya nya de bu ju go mi ri so se ti odi ya ne ga chim bu ji ri sha
Rinpoche הזכיר את הנקודה הזאת כי אחד
and so there's and so this the last two lines of and so we wish from the last piece we should bring this sense of into our daily sort of recitations and daily practices. We should bring that sense of how accomplishing others' welfare is in fact accomplishes our own aims and welfare as well. And I have a friend who does a lot of daily practices, and he does all kinds of daily practices, and he came to me with some concerns about things which were making him unhappy in that situation, and there wasn't a sort of I think it was the practices were too much for him to do, and I suggested that maybe that he should just sort of the main thing to focus on would be to do the refuge prayer. But he said that this sense in which within the prayers that we do, that we have to help all sentient beings, and that we have to assist all of the sentient beings in and be able to place them in the state of highest enlightenment was too difficult. And I think that there were some people that he had difficulties with, which had caused him to feel this way. So I think that sort of when we talk about all of the sentient beings, then I think if we take like one or a few sentient beings out of that wish to help all sentient beings and to place them in the state of enlightenment, then I wonder whether it's possible to develop bodhicitta in this way, because it should be all inclusive. And I believe that the Israeli the Dharma Friends of the Israeli group will be having discussion groups related to Rinpoche's teachings, and maybe this is one of the topics that could be. I think it's very important that this topic be brought up, and the sense of whether it's leaving out sentient beings and whether it's possible to develop in the enlightened mind.
Dewa dewa shen dewa tongpa tsungpa dungye mi dewa tsungpa dinde yundi yegi nyegi nyens nyegi rongpa nyegi chobo wondi ani ta chigi tante netang tele bebe ko chigi dungye nyong yado ani dungye le gagamindu dewa le gagadu se tsamma yinba dinde di ani tse di chigbogi kecharem dos ken chigdo nyensong tando dungye nyongsak chigi nyewali ne dungye nyong nye chigwa ani dewa kapsu dendru jebe ka mi thawado mi ki ludene be ka yana yang ani chigi gewe chawadang chig mangpo chig ganzo nyamsu nyong de ni chig shas ani chigdu ne bes ta tin jigi ne dan chigwa kan de ni dala dida ga sidu chambe ma tele ya ani gabuyos 제상가 다단지 얘기 힌트 직접 봐. 지나로라. 제상가 동해 망고뇽 버렸어. 동해 망고뇽 버렸어. 냠도 뇽 믿기지 제 말에. 데 용단데 생계할 때 그러더니. 동해 할 때. 얘데 콜 때 왔지. 동해 할 때. 뒤에서 먹고도 와. 데 용도 잠배 아니다. 타마데 밥사데 아 콘솔로 동행 가도 없어. 간데서 다 그랬어. 그래서 계산계 중불에 드린 게 중을 지금 중을 줘 봐. 어디 어디지 마송다.
So in relation to this third verse, which reads, "Together with these beings, I experienced the sufferings of the lower realms and all sorts of happiness of the higher realms. And since we dwelt as one, I am fond of them." So again, this brings in this context of from the previous, the first verse where we talked about, the second verse where we talked about these being family or being close ones, being our friends or our helpers. And so it's not just this sense where we think about them as they wish to have happiness and they wish to avoid as much as possible their suffering. They don't want suffering, they want happiness. And in relation to these people who are our friends, our close ones and family. But we're not, what the verse is describing, as in it's talking about dwelling as one, but I don't think that really, I don't think we so much take that in the context that we suffered together and we then experienced happiness together. It doesn't mean it quite, I think it doesn't mean it quite like that. It means that, so it's talking about the sufferings of the lower realms, and in the hell realms, there's only pure suffering without any respite. And then being in the third line, or experiencing all kinds of happiness which come from practicing virtue in the higher realms, such as the human existence. And this in when we talk about, it talks about also, having suffering in particular environments, in particular lives and situations, and having happiness and comfort in particular lives and situations, and being the same. But I think it also is not just this, but I think it also has this sense in which we've also given each other, mutually given these, or ourselves and all other beings have mutually given ourselves each other happiness and happiness, and we've also mutually given ourselves suffering, and yet, as it says at the bottom, since we dwelt as one in this, I am fond of them. So I think it can be taken in two contexts, not just in the context of that commonality of both experiencing the suffering of the lower realms and the experience of the high realms and living together, but also in the sense that where there is a mutual interaction together of giving the other suffering and giving the other happiness, and this is a mutual thing between us, and in which we are one. I think that's another context in which we can think of it.
חוויות של עושר וחוויות של סבל, אז הם גם אנשים שקרובים אלינו, הם גם כאלה שהם בני לוויה עבורנו, ולכן הבית הזה אומר, מאחר שחלקנו כל זאת יחדיו, אני חש כלפיהם חיבה, אני אוהב אותם.
다디기 랜데야 아니 단다 청주 샘데지 값소 공부로기 아니 데데지 준체 당얘기 말하려야 까니만 최단데 삼로 땅 용도 예 땡땡 체 다가라라니 매일 내려봐진 체험에 다 패션 디기 랜데 직부데 교매벌게 지부 용식 말에 엔도 잠비 용 아망원도 송만나 다 쳐버려 다 유디 패션 얘기 단다 동해 용도 잠비 동해 대다 리튼비 유디 민게버지 땡땡 체요를 대 민게버 제베디기 지부 텔라데니 아니 얼마 기부지 용셔 시도 잠비 패션 얘기는 개버딩에 자는 자탐부 타출했다 네 인도 잠비 예 팔 택망 뭐 내가 제차도 잠비 그걸 체들이야 내가 게 초사했다 초그랬어 액셉체 된디 제베 현장 당에기 동해들이야 아니 지기 동해 당도 램버식 말대 동해들이야 다 내려 맞추지 동해들 내려 맞추비 띵도 아니 코로나에 니마기 알이 야구치시 삼로 땅도 준비 애니에 콜 편도치 삼로도 슈치를 들어가라 많이 저와 상으로 어디 다저장가 내려라 네벨랜드라 아니 펜백이 지기 인세다 전주심 되나로 되지 정도가 되게 랜드르다 양디 단도이랑 좀 디스커션 나로로 야디 레토나 양 용으로 와 가장 쓰나다 지기 예 아주 깨지셔도 남규네 용도가 코용알라 예 콜라 펜토 그래서 코용알라 펜토 제버레데 이내 예 콜라 펜토 제셔여스 아니 난다 인세 기지 레기로 봐 데리도 잠베고 깨져마서네 세럴 차고도가 세럴디 차고도가 다 세럴 제야라야 코용알네 비제버레 티 코랑 마신베 원게 충분히 세야다 야나는 당 얘기에 콜네 뭐 비제차리 디기 원게 알이야 램바도스 용고요래 다 이내 포커스 디간메 코용알 거리 치부치부 차도요래 아니 코랑게 거진들다 렌데베 찍모도미도 코랑기 추베디 코랑래요 모션 투베 쇠토바 치기 시도 다디베 아주마소네 다 치슈드레도 아니 대인도 좀 디케려지라나 아니 녀마 간이 때송라야다 지지 체송스야 돼 충중시부 차도지 코란네 당 자자르셔 콜러 로고 체마도 네 기주면 두세 삼로드 레서바 다디치도 지난 둘차도 배정 감은 정말 차서 차로서다
and so in the commentary to and in relation to this sorry, from the last piece I also get I'm giving you I was giving you a kind of hint there as to in the last two lines of the second verse it gives us a hint about not completely abandoning sentient beings in nirvana in relation to feeling close to others. So in Nagarjuna's commentary to Bodhicitta, it talks about how it's not the harm which we receive from others is actually a benefit and not a harm. So the way to think about that is not specifically taking as an example the harms that we receive in this life, but then thinking that the cause of that harm is not something which is specifically, which is exclusively occurring in this life, and so therefore not thinking it doesn't have a cause, but understanding that it has a cause, and that the cause occurred in a life prior to this, and that our experiences of harm and the sufferings that we undergo from that harm in this life have previous causes that we must have created the negative causes in relation to other people that then kind of cause them to harm us and for us to experience the suffering on the basis of that. And I really have the sense that that is completely the case, that really is the truth, and that is how things are. So if we understand that the harm that has come to us is caused by things that we have done, negative things that we have done in the past, and therefore we can think about the suffering and the harm that comes to us in the current situation. It's very hard to say that we can just completely take that on. Completely take on Dugnya Dandalam, or to take on the suffering, but perhaps at a kind of minimum, we could at least not respond in a negative way to those that cause us harm. But actually, if we're able to first of all to not respond, and then secondly, if we are really able to understand this deeper context, where we take on the sense that actually this is a kind of result of our previous negative action, and we take that on, then actually what will happen between oneself and others is that the relationship between the two beings, and this relationship that's created between the person who's harming and ourselves who are being harmed, actually kind of deepens. And I think this would be a good thing to sort of bring up again in the discussion groups that will be held in between the teachings. In our normal sort of situation, the way we think about things when people harm us is that or when they, we sort of complain about it. Oh, well, I helped them out, but all they did is cause me some distress or harm, that kind of thing. We kind of, this is the way that we see it. But if we actually understand also, we understand this larger context of us creating the previous causes, but we also understand that this person is also driven by a lack of understanding the situation also, and we've also have this lack of also, if we can get rid of this lack of knowledge about how things are and not respond in a negative way, but instead the recognition of our mistake and feel the gratitude towards them, then this will be to our advantage, and we can help to reduce our suffering.
As a Mayan practitioner, who we are studying about the bodhicitta here, so why do we believe in past and future life? Why do we took precepts? Why Yakila become monk? So on, so on. Because we don't accept because we like past and future life very much. We want to take the precepts, it makes us a wonderful person. Not that. Why we all do this? Because kind of we see some importance of the bodhicitta. Each and every day we want to become closer to this. So that's why having the precepts or taking the commitments and taking the refuge, and all this helps us to have a better kind of understanding and experience of the bodhicitta. That's why. Then if I put this in a very simple example, if you brought something very expensive thing, like let's say I don't know what is the most expensive car in this world, Royal Rose, or what's it called? I don't know.
Just don't have it anyway.
Say like you paid like almost a $1 billion car, and then in order to keep this car safe, you will not just put that in a public parking, and maybe not put this on the street. You will make a special place for this to protect it, like buying the expensive phone, and you pay quite a nice cover for this to protect it. It's not like you don't have the phone and you just go like, I wanted the phone's cover, it looks so good. We buy the phone's cover to protect the phone. So similarly, we are doing this sort of thing. And this is also needed to check again and again. As in the discussion, when you're alone, am I doing this right or wrong? Maybe sometimes we might only have the cover, but maybe don't have the phone yet. Okay, so see you at 3.